going on, everybody out there? This is Popular Stranger. We are back at you again today with another MLB 16 The Show Diamond Dynasty episode of Risers and Fallers. It's time once again for our weekly roster predictions. We're going to go ahead and focus on a couple key players who I think are going to get upgrades this week. As always, guys, leave it down in the comment section of this video or any other video upcoming this week on players that you think deserve to get an upgrade, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I appreciate it. Let's jump into it now. And the first player we're going to go over is Adam Jones from the Baltimore Orioles. He had a very slow start this season. He got off to a rocky one, downgraded from gold to silver, and I remember when it happened, I said, guys, still keep an eye out on this card because I think he's one of those guys that's going to eventually get back to gold, and I think what he's doing on the field right now, he's definitely earned that right. On the season, he's only hitting .267, 16 home runs, 50 runs batted in, but over his last 30 games, he has a .307 average, 11 home runs, and 29 runs batted in. I think the Orioles moved him to leadoff, and that's really where he's been most successful. Also against right-handed pitching, 14 of his 16 home runs and 31 runs batted in. Also, take a look at Jonathan Schoop from the Orioles. We're going to talk about Soo-Won Oh. This is a guy that I predicted many weeks ago, and he is now the St. Louis Cardinals closer. Trevor Rosenthal, who is probably going to get downgraded this week, was demoted, and they put Soo-Won Oh, aka the final boss, into the closer spot. Now, I went ahead and edited his rosters in the game and switched him over to a closing pitcher, and it automatically increases overall to an 80. So I think once the game adjusts and gives him his proper position, he's going to get upgraded. But he has a 164 batting average against very impressive 1.58 ERA. 5 pitches to work with for a closing pitcher. Go pick this card up. Please do me a favor. Trevor Bauer's the next guy. Quite a few people hit me up throughout the last week or so about him and his season and what he's been doing lately. I looked at the stats, and he's definitely deserving of an upgrade. 6-2 on the season, 3.19 ERA with 84 strikeouts. Over the last 22 innings, he's only allowed 4 earned runs. He's got 2 wins in the last 3 starts. He had a complete game a couple days ago against the Tampa Bay Rays, 9 innings, allowing 1 earned run and 10 strikeouts. Looking really good for those Indians, who are just winning a lot of baseball games and have a good pitching staff. If Bauer can continue this, you really got to think that they could win the AL Central. We're going to continue to talk about pitchers and go over to the AL East, and that's Aaron Sanchez from the Toronto Blue Jays. Look at his stats on the year. 8-1, 3.08 ERA. I got a chance to watch him yesterday against my Rockies, and he's very impressive. They've kind of moved him back and forth between the bullpen and starting pitching role, but the way he's been performing, I can't see the Blue Jays moving him again. He's very good. Only 4 earned runs over his last 20 innings. Opponents have a 2.39 batting average against. One stat that I heard in yesterday's broadcast against the Rockies is that against his curveball, the batters are hitting under 100 for their average, so maybe they're going to give him a good break on his curveball. Brian Dozier from the Minnesota Twins, 261 average on the season, 12 home runs, 36 runs batted in. Very similar to Adam Jones, a guy who started off gold this year, had a rough start, and he's picking things up. Over his last 30, he has 7 home runs, 20 runs batted in, and a .349 average. Against left-handed pitching, he has a .321 average on the season. I think eventually Brian Dozier is going to creep back up into that gold stage. And then the last card we're going to talk about is Chris Bryant. We all know that he's had a monstrous week. He had a 3 home run game. Over his last 7 games, he has a .407 average, 4 home runs, 10 runs batted in. And on the season, I think these stats are very impressive. 21 home runs, that tops him up there with Nolan Arenado and Mark Trumbo. 280 average, pretty respectable, and 58 runs batted in. They moved him to left field in the game, which I think increased him once. But I could see the devs kind of overreacting to his big week. They tend to do that with big-name players and maybe bump him up 1 or 2. We might even see Chris Bryant hit diamond eventually. Go pick him up while he's cheap. So that's really going to wrap it up for this week. A couple other guys that we mentioned in past videos still could be on the up and up for upgrades. Carlos Gonzalez .329 average, 18 home runs, 51 runs batted in. I think he should get upgraded back to the 89 overall that he was to start the season. Charlie Blackmon just won NL Player of the Week. He's been hitting a lot of home runs, getting on base. He's a very good card in the game as well. Check for him to get upgraded. And then Edwin Encarnacion from the Blue Jays. He's continued his great pace. We mentioned him last week. I don't think that they're going to ignore it this week. I think we'll see him get an upgrade. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.